If you're waiting for that moment that you wake up one day and suddenly feel or become ready to go after what it is that you say that you want, I hate to break it to you, but it's not coming. And it doesn't work that way because ready is not a feeling, ready is not a single moment in time. Feeling ready to go after something that you haven't done before is a decision. You actively have to choose to become ready and choose to move forward, even when you don't want to. And only then will you slowly become ready and will you start to move towards what it is that you say that you want. Hi, my name is Sonia, and in this season, I'm learning to act before I'm ready and to stay when things get a little bit uncomfortable. And if that sounds like you too, then keep listening. I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned in the last few months, but if I'm really honest with myself, something I've come to realize, even when I look back on the different challenges and new beginnings and dreams I've gone after in the past, is we often try to feel our way or become our way into being ready. And there is an aspect of it that is related to putting in reps and building capacity. But I think the part that we need to realize is that the action comes first. You have to wake up one day and decide you're ready. You have to wake up one day and choose to be ready. And I think that's where some of these cliche sayings come from. Like the one that comes to mind as I'm saying this is the change comes when the discomfort of staying the same is greater than the discomfort of actually changing. And I didn't do that perfectly. And I'm sure that it's worded much better when you see it written down, but look it up. But basically, what it's saying is you're only going to change when staying the same is less comfortable than actually changing, or when you build up enough frustration and momentum and kind of like almost anger in your system of like being stuck and staying in the same spot that you're like, I'm ready, I'm deciding, I'm choosing. And that goes down to the original thought. And I remember reading a quote like, ready is a decision, and how life changing that was for someone that posted it. And honestly, I think it was life changing for me as well, because as much as subconsciously I knew that, it wasn't until I heard it written in that way or saw it written in that way that I realized how true that statement really is. You decide that you're ready and you choose that you're ready. And I think the caveat is that sometimes those steps between, like, yes, I decided I'm ready, and the outcome that you're working towards, that gap in those steps may be more than what you expected. But that's where the power lies. My fitness journey comes to mind first and foremost because I tried to become ready to take control of my health for a very long time. And I would join gyms, I would join challenges, I would work with trainers, I would try to get my family and friends to support me in different ways, and it didn't work. And I think I struggled for about 10 years before I actually made the decision to move forward in a way that took control of my health and got me to a time in my life and a point in my life where I feel really strong, healthy, and fit, and I take really good care of myself. But I literally bent down one day to tie my shoe, realized that I got winded, realized that I was way too young to be getting tired and out of breath tying my shoe, and I took control of my health. And when I took control of my health, I started so much smaller than what I'd always done, because the other pieces, and I think that's almost just as critical as like, you have to decide you're ready, and then you probably have to start a lot smaller and a lot slower than what you want. So when I would try before, I would suddenly like get rid of all of the junk food in my house and any temptation, and then commit that I was going to work out 7 days a week when I was eating a lot of food that was not good for me and not working out at all. That's not really a realistic way to move forward or transform your health. So when I finally decided that I was ready and that I had enough, I started really small, working out twice a week, minimizing sweets and junk, increasing to 3 times a week, trying to be more mindful of when I time certain meals. And then from there, I went through a very long journey that got me to the point that I'm at today. And maybe one day I'll share, but that's not really the purpose of this video. The purpose is that the action had to come first, the decision had to come first. I had to actively choose to move forward and to do things different from the way that I had previously. And then the results started to come. And that journey took over 2 years. And you may not be on a weight loss journey or a health journey. Maybe it's asking for a promotion. Maybe it's working towards a new career path. Maybe you want to start a podcast, start recording videos, anything that requires you to leave kind of where you are and what you're comfortable with. You just have to decide and you just have to start. And so many books talk about this, but it's like, what is the most tiny step that you can take, or what is the minimum barrier of entry? And that is where you start. And sometimes it is, laying out your workout clothes, or booking a meeting with your boss, or learning to set up your camera and sitting down in front of it without even pressing record, but just getting used to having something in front of you and looking towards it before you kind of get comfortable making a video. But it starts with a decision to try. And I think we underestimate sometimes when we feel a very strong resistance. It's hard to decipher between if it's like a valid fear or a valid concern, or if it's our intuition, or if it's just kind of our protective parts coming to the forefront because we don't really feel safe, or we don't fully trust ourselves, or we haven't yet built the capacity that's required to move forward in the direction that we want to move in. And that's another reason why the steps have to be small. If you're someone that has said for years that you wanted to achieve X, but you keep doing Y, every time you say, I want X, and you do Y, you're proving to yourself that you can't do it. And that's deteriorating your self trust. You're learning to not trust yourself. And with every rep that you do in the wrong direction, you're weakening the muscle that you need to move in the right direction. So it works the same way. You make a tiny promise and you keep it to yourself. And I think the other biggest lesson I've learned as I've been on this journey, and as I've tried to navigate what it means to move forward towards what it is that I say that I want, it's not underestimating the power of taking small steps and building that self trust in areas that may not seem related. So, even as I embark on this journey to start posting videos, to start a YouTube channel, which by the way is very hard, it's uncomfortable, I rely on my experience through fitness and remind myself of what that took and how each tiny rep and each tiny movement in the right direction gave me more confidence, made me feel more comfortable, and built the muscle I needed to keep building, keep getting bigger. And I went from zero exercise, not knowing what a macro was, to losing 90 pounds, building a lot of strength. I even at one point was a personal trainer. I became a nutrition coach. I really embodied wellness and the identity of someone that takes control of her health. And then, there was finding the right balance to where I am today that came with that. But I oftentimes rely on and think of that journey even as I think of my next steps. And whether it's been the small steps that I've taken towards new career paths, or towards building new connections and new community, or towards feeling more comfortable being seen, using my voice, getting in touch with needs, emotions. I mean, it's been such a huge journey, and there's so many directions that you could take this material and take this, I guess, topic. But at the end of the day, it's like every time you say, I want to do something, and you follow through, you're building up your self trust and you're making it bigger and bigger and bigger. And the more you trust yourself and the more that you believe you're someone that follows through, you're someone that does what they say they will, the more ready you're going to feel. And that's the way the cycle works. You act first, you experience something from that action. And then from that experience, you motivate yourself to move forward. And sometimes that experience is good and it validates. And sometimes it might make you feel a little bit smaller and shrink. And I think that's the power of staying. So, I started this video and I started with this topic first because I think it's so important. You have to act before you're ready, and then you have to learn to stay because it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel foreign, and your nervous system might set off some alarm bells or set off some like internal dialogue that makes you think it's not worth it, it's not working, this is too hard, I don't even know if I really want this. And that's how the cycle continues. So you don't only have to decide that you're ready, you have to decide that you're also ready to stay and ready to move your way through the discomfort that comes with doing something you haven't done before. And I think it's also really important if you decide to move forward and embark on this journey, to not compare yourself because your ready and your small step is going to be completely different than someone else's ready and someone else's small step. And that's okay. What feels like Everest to you might feel like a drop in a pond to someone else, and vice versa. And we cannot compare ourselves. You have to act in accordance with yourself, with your journey, and with where you have been. So I'm not going to ask, are you ready? But maybe I'll ask, are you willing to decide that you're ready? Ready to at least take that first step? Let me know. And if you're interested in these types of conversations and hearing more, please let's connect. Let's keep in touch. Looking forward to the discussions that we have ahead.